Coming up on Ag Day, a South Dakota sculptor is using his rural roots in the local junkyard to create magnificent works of art. USDA raises its expectations for soybean exports. In analysis, a look at American farmers' biggest customer, China.
We're good at growing beans here, and they're good at buying them.
And Farm Bill leaders gather to work toward compromise as another year is quickly coming to an end.
Ag Day, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the one you depend on, the one that lasts.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The leading members of the Farm Bill Conference Committee plan to sit down later today, continuing our coverage of the 2013 Farm Bill. That's our top story on Ag Day. Chairman and House Representative Frank Lucas says getting the framework of the bill completed should be possible before the December recess. However, getting a final vote from both chambers is less likely.
I want the Farm Bill Conference to be completed. Chairman Lucas has made a number of good faith efforts. We can't get Senate Democrats to the point of saying yes.
While Lucas didn't say it as strongly, he hinted that later today they'll be interested to see what Senate Ag Committee Chair Debbie Stabenow brings to the table. Lucas made these comments while talking with Mike Adams on AgriTalk. Lucas says getting both sides to agree is possible, but then he doesn't anticipate a full vote in the chambers until after the new year when Congress returns, adding ultimately the final bill has to be something that can pass at every level.
Mike, no matter how perfect a document is, no matter how great the policy, no matter how great the economics, if it is not politically doable, then it is a wasted effort. I have to have a document that is good for rural America, good for production agriculture, ultimately good for the consumer, yet something that can pass both bodies and be signed by the president. That means not everybody will be happy, but that's just the way it has to be done in this very divisive environment we work in.
Lucas also didn't rule out having the Farm Bill attached or attaching other bills to the final version as it goes to a vote. On an extension, Lucas only favors a relatively short extension rather than a 1 or 2 year pass. As Lucas stated, the Farm Bill Conference Committee has a lot to sort out before it can move forward. There are significant differences in food stamps, crop insurance, and the dairy program, just to name a few. Ohio State ag economist Carl Zuloff says it's a 50-50 split on whether there's a new farm bill or another extension.
Those differences all exist, and they, as much as nutrition, will help determine whether or not we get a farm bill. Right now, my personal guess is that we have about a 50% chance of getting a new farm bill, and we have about a 50% chance of an extension in the current farm bill. The most likely extension would probably be 2 years, because that would put us, if we did a 1 year extension, we would then be up against the elections next year, and my guess is Congress would prefer not to do major legislation in the middle of an election campaign. There is a slight possibility, not large, that we would end up not passing anything on the farm bill. I don't think that's got a very large probability. It's single digits, but I do think it's there.
Part of the Farm Bill work involves a safety net for America's largest crops. Next Tuesday, USDA releases its latest supply-demand estimates for the U.S. and abroad. Allendale is holding its production forecast for the year at 13.9 billion bushels on corn. Soybeans are forecast at 3.25 billion. USDA's November numbers were just slightly higher. It won't be updating its forecast until the January report. It will, however, be looking at world production ahead of the USDA numbers. Informa Economics expects Brazilian producers to grow 88 million tons of soybeans. That's up from its previous estimate. Meanwhile, analysts dropped corn expectations to 70.6 million. Argentinian production estimates were unchanged. With Brazil and South America in their slow period, world buyers are turning to American beans. That's helping soybeans remain in high demand on the world market. USDA just increased its forecast for soybean exports in the 2013-14 year. The department now expects to ship 39.5 million tons of beans. As of October, sales were already on a record pace. Brisk sales to China are the main contributor to the shift in expectations. That country bought 98% of all exported soybeans last year. The USDA expects China to import about 7 million tons of corn. However, those U.S. shipments may come to a standstill. Buyers are considering stopping purchases from the U.S. after finding shipments with a non-approved GMO variety. Industry watchers say the discovery could end imports of U.S. corn for several months, which would likely weigh on prices already some 40% lower than last year. Chinese officials say they've agreed to a large livestock order from Romania. That country will be shipping some 500,000 cattle and 3 million pigs to the Asian giant in the coming years. Some of the Romanian food industry question whether the country can keep up with Chinese demand. Mike Hoffman is traveling this week to meet with the Montana Stock Growers Association. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen is filling in this morning. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Clinton. Travis Miller, an agronomist for Texas AgriLife Extension, commented about a recent trip through central Texas. He says the rains this fall have perked up winter pastures. He says wheat and oat crops got a needed boost across much of the state. The soil moisture reserves, though still low in some areas, are much improved. In Wayne County, Nebraska, one farmer told us he was hoping to finish up harvest before the weekend. He was thankful for this year for 60 bushel soybeans and 190 bushel corn, all of it without irrigation. And Florida's NASS report shows that cotton and soybean harvest was still underway in the northern part of the state. Recent frosts in the Panhandle put an end to warm season perennial pastures. Well, as we take a look at our crop moisture map, looks like we still have some abundant moisture in the eastern part of the country, but it looks like the rest of the country, for the most part, looking normal. We'll take a look at the rest of your national forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Clinton?
All right, thanks, Cindy. Christmas tree farmers like row crop producers have to worry about disease in their crops, but when tree growers lose a crop, it's a loss measured in years, not just one growing season. This year, growers in North Carolina are reporting problems associated with tree rot. But farmers are also finding some success in a variety of tree called Turkish fir. Alan Breed has our story from the Associated Press.
The Christmas season is in full swing. But for many farmers, it's anything but smooth sailing. A root rotting disease is spreading from the Great Lakes states to the northwest. In North Carolina, the #2 Christmas tree producer, Jeff Pollard, lost up to 80% of his Fraser firs on some stands. And once the soil is diseased, that's it.
There's 11 years of work. 11 years of work. Gone.
Researchers at North Carolina State University and elsewhere are looking for ways to engineer a more rot-resistant tree. They're also pushing a fir variety from the birthplace of Old St. Nicholas himself as a possible alternative.
There are a lot of nice characteristics about Turkish fir. It does make a pretty Christmas tree, but there's still a lot of things we're learning about the species.
For one, it tends to bud out earlier, making it susceptible to frost. Another problem? Deer love it.
They'll walk by Fraser fir to snack on the Turkish fir.
So far, Pollard has planted several acres of Turkish fir and likes what he sees.
Good needle retention, good strong limbs, soft, a good aroma. It doesn't smell as good as a Fraser fir, though, I'll tell you that. But it's close.
And close may be good enough to keep him in business.
These Christmas trees have kept family farms in families.
With his 2 sons now at his side, Pollard is banking families will embrace the new species of Christmas trees. Alan Breed, Associated Press, Bakersville, North Carolina.
Thanks, Alan. Alan made reference to the origin of St. Nick. He was born in what's now known as southern Turkey. When his parents died, Nicholas used his whole inheritance to assist the needy, the sick, and the suffering. Well, still to come on this Wednesday show, Farm Director Al Pell discusses China as a market mover for U.S. grain, plus the skilled craftsman doesn't need to visit an art supply store for his materials. A local junk heap will do just fine. Details when we head in the country to South Dakota.
You're watching Ag Day Television with host Clinton Griffiths, Farm Director Al Pell, National Reporter Tyne Morgan, and meteorologist Mike Hoffman. Ag Day, the country experience.